Okay, so before we get started with Namgyal Khensur Geshe Lharampa Tenzin's teaching, let's make prostrations. I just put record on, so. Very bad. Okay. So welcome, everyone. Thank you all for attending today. Before we get started, let's do the introductory prayers. So we'll begin with the Heart Sutra. So anyone who's not aware, the prayer book for our center is on the website. So you can look at the prayer book on our website, and you can look at it in a computer format if you don't already have one. So we're going to begin with the Heart Sutra, and then we'll make a mandala offering and a prayer of refuge. And as always, we should set our motivation that we're attending this teaching in order to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, in order to remove the suffering from the world, in order to bring sentient beings to happiness and to remove their suffering and have them abide in an everlasting state of joy and equanimity. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature, form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I, dhatu, up to no mind, dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind, consciousness, dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times, by means of Prajnaparamita, fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way. Te ata om gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family. Thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Gala jubene jodamba nengoje dojo ngai do dojen droba bolama ibojen zin nezongando zola yadzelo agasamana te shandara samane. Aga samara dajandara samara yame de ata om gate gate bara sangate badiso baba gonjo sanji gae de me doji je obo doji me ko doji shewa doji dagi baji me dom be chudan je she den go yeso ngere ndo ja je do shewa ne bu nu be je dan de wa dan dom ba don jin bo zon don yo di da shi de ja ne na de le The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready a shower of rain, the teaching of I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Hedam Guru Radha Mandala Gam Niradayami. Chadan Ye Janam La Janjo Badu Dani Jasuji Nagi Chinye Jibezonam Rola Benji Sanye Jubashu Yadan Ye Janam La Janjo Badu Dani Jasuji Nagi Chinye Jibezonam Rola Benji Sanye Jubashu Jadan Ye Janam La Janjo Badu Dani Jasuji Dagi Chunye Jibezonam Rola Benji Sanye Jubashu. Okay, so today Rinpoche has said that he'd like to go over the teachings for beings of three capacities, but specifically go over it by looking at Atisha's lamp for the path to enlightenment. Rinpoche went over this for a very long time. We have an extensive teaching on it that you can find on the internet. But it's always good to refresh, because the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment is the root text for Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the Path to Enlightenment. So that over 10-year teaching Rinpoche gave on the Lamrim Chemo was all about the meaning of this particular text. And the first 5 or 6 stanzas of this text basically explain the entire path to enlightenment for beings of three capacities in a summarized fashion. And then the text goes on to explain basically how one does that and what one practices. So Rinpoche felt it important to go over these stanzas again today. And again, I just want to encourage everyone. These weekly teachings are wonderful, but we have incredible archive of teachings of the Lamrim Chemo and the Lojong teachings, and so many teachings on Tantra and so forth that can be found if you go onto the Chenrezig Center website and you click in the left corner where you see the teachings, hit the teachings, and you'll see a large amount of different topics that you can click on. And those topics will, within those topics, have tons of teachings. So it's important, I think, just to remind everybody that we have that wealth of information because of the kindness of Ted really pushing for this to be on the internet and making sure that it was all archived and available. We have all of that. So please make sure we make use of it because that's, you know, the real commentaries and the details on all this information that we summarize every Sunday are in those teachings. Okay, Rinpoche, the ne the ngatsu, the landun, the chungo din dan chungo, the
adisha landun, or the ngolama ruru shugi.
lesso.
That chungo din dan shugi, chibusung shibashas. That tiba swajibe landala, chibusung land, trina, chungo da tongu lang.
Lesso.
Chiba shibi langsung dunu gres.
Lesso.
Chiba chungu lala tenne dundur nruya. Chiba dringa lala tenne tabal nruya. Chiba shibi lala tenne swaji bichu odu zinzare.
Lesso. So Atisha's lamp for the path to enlightenment begins first with, Rinpoche didn't read it, but we'll go ahead and read it. Begins first with the homage to the Bodhisattva, the youthful Manjushri. I pay homage with great respect to the conquerors of the three times, to their teachings and those who aspire to virtue. Urged by the good disciple Shanchu Wo, I shall illuminate the lamp for the path to enlightenment. So here we see Atisha's expression of homage and the promise to compose. And then here we see the content of this information. What will be the content of this text? Understand there are three kinds of persons. Because of their small, middling, and supreme capacities, I shall write clearly distinguishing their individual characteristics. So here, Atisha is presenting the three kinds of capacities that the Buddha taught and what their results would be. So the meaning of that is, the Buddha taught that if you engage in the practices that are shared in common with beings of small capacity, then you will be able to have a higher realm rebirth and you will end the lower realm rebirths by engaging in that. You will end the result for a lower realm rebirth in that you're practicing in that lifetime. So if you're engaging in these practices, you're getting rid of those causes in that life which give rise to lower realm rebirth. And then Rinpoche, Jipu Chomo, Dan Tomo Lanji Rimba, the Lobjung Shena, Gonjana, Jewa Ngami, the Musun Lay Kagadu, Jewa de Kona, Jewa de Sa, the Jewa de Musun Lay Sa Kagadu, Jewa Ngama Jipa Dagadu. Nene Jipu Chomo Dan Tomo Lanji Rima, Kona Lobjung Shena, Musun the Nyawa Yida Dedru, Dakpak Pontudwe. The Jipuchon dan Tumo Lanji Jimba Kona La Dene, the Nyawa Yida Dendru, Pontudu, Dakpash, Jewa Kanga, Katudwe. So what I was asking Rinpoche is a question that's interesting. If one were to only practice these practices for beings of small capacity, would this somehow end the lower realm rebirths in the future? Is it possible that you could? Rinpoche said it's possible that you could. So the reason for that debate is that it's said that you have to reach at least the path of patience, of the path of preparation. And some will say the path of seeing to end the lower realm rebirth. But here's an interesting idea. Could you temporarily, if you just kept going with the small scope teachings and only those, would you be able to end those lower realms on that temporary, impermanent basis? Because we know it's not a permanent result. You'd have to keep practicing and only practicing that. So the Nyawa Sapi Le Jipu Chungo Dan Tumo Lanji Rimba Dipa Dagdwe. So previously accumulated non-virtues of, for instance, the accumulation of the non-virtue that gives rise to the hell realm can be extinguished and purified through practicing the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. So it's important to understand the potency of these teachings. We're saying that you cannot be born in the lower realms if you practice this. So that's the first scope. And then the next idea is the teachings shared in common with beings of medium capacity. And these are the teachings that lead to liberation, that lead to an individual liberation in the Hinayana perspective. And then the teachings for beings of great capacity that allow one to become a Buddha. So here, this first stanza is the content, the expression of the content of the material. So the Rinpoche, the Tanda, the Chupa Jupa, the Jambayan Shase, Dusun Sanje Shase, then the Danchawa, Dancha. Tonga Dene, the Chongo Dindan, Digare. Okay, so then so we have the expression of homage, the promise to compose, and then the expression of what will be the meaning. What is the reason? What is in this text? The reason for composition, you could say, but more of it is the what's in this. That's the content of this composition. So it is the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity, teachings shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and teachings for beings of great capacity. So now we begin to define each of these each capacities. Then Rinpoche, Ganshi Tani, the Shloka. Let's go. The Deda Seni Rasewa Susu Ewa Ch. Then Ganshi, the Jipu Chungo. The Rangi Doni de Jipu Marshe Jipu Chungo. CP de Ja. The Jipu Din. Less so. Then is Ranju. Dopa doing yeah. Chembo. Okay, so then we have each of these capacities defined within this body of the text next. So it says, okay, this is the information that will be presented. The teachings shared in common with beings of three capacities. What are those? The teachings for beings of small capacity, medium capacity, and great capacity. What are the teachings for that are shared in common with beings of small capacity? What kind of person is that for? And then it says, those who seek, know that those who by whatever means seek for themselves no more than the pleasures of cyclic existence are persons of least capacity. So the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity that this is presenting, that the person of least capacity is most prepared to practice, are for those who only want pleasure in cyclic existence. That would be the higher realms of cyclic existence. So the Buddha presented these teachings that would allow one, in dependence upon these teachings, it would allow one to be free from the lower realms of cyclic existence and have the pleasures of cyclic existence, which are fleeting, although they are found in the higher realms, which are the humans, demigods, and gods. Then Jipu Chungo Dan Tumo Lanjirima Gari Lobjumshe. So by engaging in the understanding of impermanence, death and impermanence, meditating on death and impermanence, and understanding understanding refuge and going for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And because of understanding death and impermanence, and understanding karma and its results, one abandons the non-virtues, which are 10. So one engages in the ethics that abandons killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Those are 3 non-virtues of the body. 3 non-virtues of the speech are lying, divisive speech, harsh words, and gossip. And 3 non-virtues of the mind, which are covetousness, harmful intent, and wrong view. So the ethics that abandons those non-virtues is engaged in, and coupled with going for refuge. And then that being is able to, in dependence upon those practices, be free from the lower realms of cyclic existence. So it's saying that a person who wants to be free from the lower realms and have higher realm rebirth has to practice those teachings for beings of small capacity, or as we say, the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. We say in common with because they're necessary to practice in order to practice the medium capacity or the great capacity. These are dependent upon one another. Their realizations are required for the next step, if you will. The small scopes realizations are required for the medium scopes realizations to occur, and the medium scopes realizations are necessary in order for the great scopes realizations to occur. So the small scope is going for refuge and practicing ethical behavior, and then one is able to have a higher realm rebirth. The medium scope is the next stanza that says, for those who seek peace for themselves alone, turning away from worldly pleasures and avoiding destructive actions are said to be middling capacity. So here, the teachings for beings of medium capacity, what are those? Those allow one to be free from cyclic existence. It says, for themselves alone. It means they aren't becoming a Buddha for the sake of sentient beings. They're becoming an Arhat for the sake of themselves, to free themselves from cyclic existence altogether. And those practices are the Jipodin, the La Passion. Those practices are the three highest higher trainings of ethics, concentration, and wisdom. And in dependence upon those practices, the Buddha said, you will be able to end rebirth altogether. The 6 realms of cyclic existence can be abandoned. The seeming pleasures of the higher realms are not pleasurable because they contain at least pervasive compounded suffering, and usually the suffering of suffering and the suffering of change. So the medium capacity practitioner wants to avoid all of cyclic existence, but just for themselves. And then the next is for the person of great capacity, those who through their personal suffering truly want to end completely all the suffering of others, or persons of supreme capacity. So here you see how the 5th stanza is caused by the 4. Those who through their personal suffering. So you understand that you want to get out completely, and you understand that everybody else is in the same predicament as you, and you generate this compassion that was once this desire that wanting you to emerge from suffering, now you want them to emerge from suffering just as badly. You realize you can't do it because you're handicapped by the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience ultimately. And then you want to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And that's how you arrive at the teachings for beings of great capacity. So that basically summarizes the content of this text. In order to practice that last capacity of great capacity, you practice all the small and medium capacities, then generate the mind that aspires to enlightenment, as I just explained. But I wanted to definitely put it in clear words, that renunciation, that you have a desire to emerge from the lower realms in the small scope. And then you get a desire to emerge from all of the realms. And then you get a desire for everyone to emerge and for you to partake and be the main kind of conduit for that process. You're saying, I'm going to become a Buddha for all of them so that they can be freed the same way I want to be freed. Okay. So we're going to end there. Rinpoche just wanted to say hello. Happy New Year, everybody. That's right. We're in a new year. And hopefully we will, I won't say things will get better because, if we're practicing what Rinpoche has taught us, what's going on the outside is really only what's going on the outside. Our spiritual development really goes on internally. And sometimes things like this last year that seemed so terrible allow us to look inwardly, find out where our real defects of character are, we can be honest with ourselves so that when we do have to reapproach the world, maybe we reapproach it in a little more realistic way that isn't so attached, that isn't so about us, and maybe allows us to cherish others a little bit more and cherish ourselves a little bit less. And as we inch towards that goal of cherishing others completely, we get a little bit better ourselves, and our life gets a little bit better as a byproduct. But that's not the goal. And as soon as we make it the goal, making it just our life a little better and not about others, that's when it all just goes awry. That's when it becomes not spiritual practice. It It becomes practice that is driven towards more rebirth, driven towards more cyclic existence. We really can take this opportunity to look at the over 600 teachings Rinpoche has given us, that each probably contain enough for us to become enlightened, and say, wow, we have all of these keys, let's start opening some doors. And instead of looking at this as a missed opportunity, today is the first day of our lives if we want to look at it like that. We can look at what we did yesterday and learn from it, but today is really the day we have to practice. What we didn't practice yesterday is no longer existent. Today is what exists. The moment I just said before doesn't exist anymore either. So we only have this moment. If we can harness this moment and each and every moment for spiritual practice, then we're really doing what the Buddha taught, instead of just kind of wearing Buddha as a fashion, or Buddhism as a fashion, because it's the alternative to the religion that we have a resentment against. Questions? Good to see everyone looking healthy. Yes, Chris, all COVID negative, and we are going to be separate from the world in all cases until I have, myself, Lori, and Rinpoche have a vaccination. Because if I get sick, then we have a real problem. Lori gets sick, we have a real problem. Rinpoche gets sick, we have a real problem. And we all have to look at it as life or death for all of us, because it's Rinpoche's life. I took refuge with Rinpoche. May I use Lobsang Tenzin as my Buddhist name? Rinpoche is my guru, refuge protector, and he is with me always. Thank you so much for teaching text today. David, the Triwa Yure, the Lama Gon Jiaotro, Chiran Jiaotro Dumba Kon La Nanson, Yene Kon the Jiaotro Ming Yo Mare, Yene the Kon Lobsang Tenzin Pecha Chena Digrabe, Gangisena the Chiran Kon Sawe Lama, the Lama Chambo, then Kon the Chiran Sen Yakshu Kon Sampa. Yabudu. Ming Jenda Yabudu, the Digadu. Yeah, he said that's fine. You can use the name Lobsang Tenzin for this. Can Buddha have a sense of humor? How do they find things funny if they know everything? Well, they would know how to have a sense of humor if they know everything, and they would know how to be funny if they know everything. Why am I muted? Oh, no, I'm not muted. Okay. All right. I'm not really good at technology, clearly. Let me go back to the question and answer. So everyone heard all of that. Good. Can a Buddha have a sense of Rinpoche? Dan Triwoyure. Sanje Simasi. Jolan do it. If the Buddha wants to, he can have a sense of humor and joke. So Gangisena Jolan Chu Yin Sanje Chu Tanje Shin. So if the Buddha wants to, he can make jokes, but it would be for the sake of then the Sanje Jolan Dunda Mepa Jolan Pemba Jolan Sanje the Senchen Pemba Jolan Yomarabe. So the Buddha would be motivated by compassion to make jokes. So why would the Buddha joke? So the Buddha, Rinpoche said the Buddha would joke if he wanted to. What does that mean? That sounds funny, but what does the Buddha want? The Buddha wants to free all sentient beings from suffering. So the Buddha uses skillful means to do that. So if the Buddha found it necessary to tell a joke in order for one sentient being to be ripened more than they were before, or to become a Buddha quicker, or to have the causes and conditions that are necessary for them to reach whatever next stage of realization they were needed to in order to progress on the path, then the Buddha would sell a joke. We see the Buddha, because of omniscience, actually engaged in a lot of different things that we wouldn't normally imagine a Buddha would do. So yeah, the Buddha can joke. I think some of the stories in the scriptures are funny, but maybe they aren't meant to be funny, but they're kind of funny. I don't know. Rabbits jump into pots and feed them to gods, and then they turn into, a lot of stuff happens. It's humorous if you see the humor in it. Flowers fall from the sky. I mean, it's literal, but I don't know. All right, so I think that's all the questions and answers that we have. Oh, no, it's not. Good idea. Yeah, right, Chris? For those with resentment towards other religions and other words of wisdom to correct our misguided behavior fueled by our feelings of unpleasantness. So it's important to remember that what we see in the Precious Garland, where Nagarjuna tells the king to make sure that all the other religions have a good place to practice, and that the places that they have to practice are beautiful. And Nagarjuna all the time is saying this to the king, knowing those religions aren't correct, knowing that they're teaching something that will cause people to be reborn in hell. So if the highly realized beings see it fit to make sure that others can practice something that we may not agree with, then maybe we should say that everybody's path is different, and maybe those other religions are what brought us to this religion and are what are going to help others from maybe leading horrendous lives of nihilism if they didn't have it. So Rinpoche, the kon chiwa de ngama kon de chulu jenda lobjum sheson yishu chishina kache nga ome. The ne the kon puguchun chundu the why would he have I'm trying to understand how to explain why you have a resentment against your religion growing up. Like what? The puguchun chundu sansan pama da ama the yishu gomba zanima re care. Then sansan puguchun chun yogudu. Then sansan yishu gegen the be ducha la du the chiran de madana yawa drogore. Then chiran de then the chulu kashe pudan pu nyamdu yapio mare jemen dan jemen nyamdu yapio mare. Then konsu the dipa sa la du. Then they make kashe the sem chipio mare then yishu long du. Then yishu long lana then yepo gare Rinpoche ngatsu nampa then kon nampa yen ine kon yishu the dan yishu hakoma chulu jenda that's long du. Gangisin kon lapcha yapio mare. Then ngatsu lon lana niepo gare. So Rinpoche, I said everything you said. I explained to him how you can have resentment. I said sometimes children are brought to church every Sunday or on another day. I was not religious specific each time. I used different religious names, but because you weren't religious specific. And I said, and then they are told things they don't agree with. And then maybe they are told things that disagree with the way the world is being presented, that men and men shouldn't marry or women and women shouldn't marry. And then, so I'm trying to give Rinpoche a reason why you could become angry at a religion. So it starts to oppose things that you feel are right, and you're forced into studying it. And then you develop a resentment. So that's one way you can develop a resentment. I wanted him to understand what we were talking about. I said, so if you have this anger towards other religions because of what they're saying or because of your upbringing, what should you do? He said two things: meditate upon love, meditate upon emptiness. So we realize that our experience is all our karma, and that things are just dependently originated, coming together, and we're naming them because of our karma. Not that they don't exist, but their comings together and our opportunity to experience them and dislike them is all a result of something negative. If it's a negative emotion that comes up, we previously accumulated. It doesn't have anything to do with that religion. It has to do with us and our previous non-virtue. So if we're experiencing wrong view and seeing it over and over again, and it's making us angry, isn't that funny? Because anger is just as bad as wrong view, no? Anger, it will drive us to do things a lot quicker sometimes than even wrong view. Wrong view is just kind of like the radio's always on. And you're always just kind of operating in this way. Now throw some anger on that, operating in ignorance with anger. So now you've just kind of put icing on a cake. So now we're not only seeing that this thing isn't empty, we're seeing it as this solid thing that's substantial from its own side. And then, so now we're the ones who are ignorant of it. So they're just doing their thing from their side. we're seeing it as substantially existent. So now we are grasping it as it truly existent, and now we're getting angry about it. So now we have 2 of the 3 poisons fully functioning, and we think that they're stupid. Isn't that ironic? Concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All powerful Avalokiteshvara, Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Geshe Rinpoche, Gutsi Shapi Denama. And that little speech I just gave was for myself to hear as well, because I do this every day of my life and I judge every day of my life as well. So when we hear these teachings, we use the Dharma as a mirror to look in to know whether we're advancing spiritually or not. And if we don't want that mirror, we should just like go do life and other stuff than Buddhism. But if we really, really want to do Buddhism, we need that mirror, because that's the only way we'll spiritually advance. And it doesn't always feel good, but it'll feel good to know that you're not living in ignorance day and night, at least trying not to live in ignorance day and night. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we'll keep you posted. Rinpoche has, just real quickly, Rinpoche this morning said a couple of things that he is going to upcoming do. Besides, I know we said the transmissions, but that's a big, big undertaking. But upcoming, Rinpoche will do the Ganden Lajama, the 100 Gods of Tashita, coming up. And also he wants to go over the source of all my good again. We went over the Lam Rinpoche, and it's good to go back and look at the source of all my good, because it's really contains the whole Lam Rinpoche, and you can see how the outline fits into it. And so you could, maybe we start to look at that text on Sundays again, and people can go back to the Lam Rinpoche teachings and then see how that relates to each stanza. Because each stanza can contain sometimes like a year's worth of teaching. I'm not joking. So it's interesting to see that. And then you think you know something. You read this little source of all my good. It's a silly little text. Why is he teaching that again? Well, when you realize there's 14 stanzas there and they contain over 10 years worth of material, then you realize that, wow, maybe I don't know as much as I think I do. And hopefully that's not the case and you're all Buddhists, but in my case, I know a lot less than I think I do. All right, take care, everybody.
You should have to go a long way to that little